Okay, class, we have one final video to review for today. Today we're going to be talking about summarizing, paraphrasing, and quoting. So in the previous videos, you learned about citations, the works cited piece and the in-text citations piece. And now we're going to put those to use and also work on our summarizing, paraphrasing, and quoting skills. So what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and click the next slide and read along with this with me, okay? A summary is giving a shortened version of the text. It does not include your opinion. And please remember to use citations to give credit to the author, okay? We do not want you, when you are summarizing, paraphrasing, or quoting, to plagiarize. If you plagiarize, that counts as cheating, and you will receive 0 credit. So when we summarize, paraphrase, or quote, please make sure you have a citation after each one of those, an in-text citation, along with a works cited at the bottom. Now let's talk about how in the world do we create a summary? Well, first we have to read our text. We have to figure out, like, what does it say? So reading our information first. Read the article or read the diagram or anything that we are looking at. We're going to read completely. Then we're going to identify the main idea, identify the important details. Then we're going to write the summary that includes the title, the author, the topic, and supporting details. So let's look at an example. Let's look at this paragraph with me. Long ago, in feudal Japan, ninjas were secret agents who would utilize disguises to gain access to enemy territory. Their primary role was to gather information about the enemy's army and weapons. They would sometimes sabotage enemies by committing arson and setting fire to their stronghold or stealing supplies. Wow, yikes. um, so overall, this information is talking about ninjas in Japan and what they did. So what I did was I highlighted in red the main points about ninjas in this paragraph. So the main ideas, the main components or main information about ninjas. In here, I also have the work cited at the bottom. Okay. Here's my example of how a summary could be for this. Long ago, Japanese secret agents called ninjas would gather information and sabotage enemies, and then there's my in-text citation. Notice that I talked about that it's in Japan. There are secret agents called ninjas. They would gather information and they would sabotage enemies. So take a quick look back at my words in red. Those were my key ideas of this paragraph, and I just summarized it by putting it together in one sentence. This is a solid summary. So what I would like for you to do is I want you to read this paragraph, and I want you to come up with a one-sentence summary on your own. So I'm going to read this with you, and then I want you to create that summary. Polar bears are at the top of the food chain and have an important role in the overall health of the marine environment. Over thousands of years, polar bears have also been an important part of the cultures and economies of Arctic peoples. Polar bears depend on sea ice for their existence and are directly impacted by climate change, serving as an important indicator species. So all of the information you need is here. I want you here to write a one-sentence summary over the main idea of this paragraph. Okay. Please also include an in-text citation. Okay. Okay, go ahead and do that now, please. When you are done, go ahead and click play on this video, and we'll move on to our next one. So our next thing we're going to talk about is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is when you put the text in your own words. Please also, again, remember to give credit to the author. We do not want you to plagiarize. So how do we paraphrase? We can read the text several more times. Make sure to look away from the text and write your own paraphrase. Check the original to make sure your paraphrase includes the main idea or the original meaning. And if you have keywords or phrases that are the same, change them or make it a quote. So let's go back to my example with ninjas. Okay, so here I already wrote a summary about this. A paraphrase is really taking sentence by sentence and writing the main point of each sentence in your own words for that sentence. So here is my example of a paraphrase. In medieval Japan, spies called ninjas wore disguises to sneak into their rival's region. A ninja's main job was to collect important data about the enemy's resources. Sometimes they would set fire to the enemy's fortress. They would also steal provisions. So I touched on each of the key points here, but I wrote it in my own words. And something that's interesting is that a summary and the difference between a summary and a paraphrase is summary is just kind of a general overview of what that topic was talking about. A paraphrase is taking all of that information and writing it in your own words. So here, like I said, I called them spies. I talked about instead of like the enemy here, rivals. I talked about collecting important data instead of gathering information. I talked about here setting fire to the enemy's fortress and stealing provisions instead of arson. All of those things I wrote in my own words. So here, I want you to try it with our polar bear paragraph. This time, sentence by sentence, I want you to write a paraphrase that, in your own words. You're going to make sure you talk about each of the key ideas and include, an in-text citation. Remember, we don't want you to plagiarize. So you can go ahead and pause this video. I want you to create a paraphrase. And then when you're ready to start up again, you can click play and we're going to move on to our last one. Okay. Our last one for the day is quoting. What I would like for you to do is hopefully quoting is something that you are familiar with. And I want you to reflect on that for a second. When you quote something, you're going to use some of the text that exactly as it appears. So you're going to take a piece of the text that you've already read and you're going to put that in your own writing, but you're going to use quotation marks. Also, don't forget to cite your source. Give credit to the author. Okay? Something to keep in mind, you should not try to quote over a sentence. So if you are trying to take a quote from an article, I should not see multiple sentences in a quote. Okay, try to keep that to a minimum, to a sentence. So again, here's my example of my ninjas paragraph. And here is a quote I've created. So it's the first exact sentence. Notice here, I also have my in-text citation. The period goes at the end of the sentence. It does not go with beside territory. So make sure you have the period at the end of the sentence. And that is how you do a quote. What I'd like for you to do now is I want you to practice creating a direct quote. And you're going to write it in this box. Please don't forget to include an in-text citation and your quotation marks. So write a quote, include quotation marks, and include an in-text citation. Once you have that done, you can click play again and we are going to do just a few more things. So once you are done with this, once you have your quote here, we're going to move on to next. And I want you to read along with me of this overview. The first thing, and this is overview over all 3 videos. So, there are 2 areas in an essay to show that you are citing your sources. The first part is a work cited, and that actually goes at the bottom of your essay, and in-text citations, which go all throughout your writing. Another key point is you can share information you learned from another source by summarizing, paraphrasing, or quoting the information. Please cite your sources so you do not plagiarize. We do not want you to get in trouble with that. And you can use bibme.org to create your works cited page. What I'd like for you to do is I want you, originally at the beginning of this lesson, you had these dots, and wherever they ended up on your screen, I want you to tell me now, how well do you know these words? Okay, so maybe you learned a lot more about citations, but you definitely need more practice. You could go here. Maybe you knew how to summarize already, and today was just a quick review. You're definitely a yes, maybe. For paraphrase, maybe you could use some more work on it, and maybe for a quote, you feel really solid about it. Go ahead and move those dots to wherever you feel like you definitely know, like either yes or no. You don't, if you, whatever you know for these words, then you can click next. And I want you to write here for me what's the most important thing from today's lesson that stuck with you. And then when you're done with that, I would like for you to please circle, how are you feeling over today's things? How comfortable are you with this information? When you are all done, I will be looking at your paradox, so I'll be talking to some of you probably. If you are done with this, please study for your quiz. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be around. Have a good day.